Welcome to the 8-Minute Devotion with Pastor Cameron Walcott. The 8-Minute Devotion is a daily message that exists to give you hope, encouragement, and life as we look together at the Word of God. And now, the 8-Minute Devotion.
Hello, friends. So glad you can join us today for this episode of the 8-Minute Devotion. We're going to be looking at Philippians 1 and verse 14. And Philippians 1:14 says this, "And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear." The Apostle Paul is saying here that because of his imprisonment, many others are becoming bold in the Lord. When they see the boldness of Paul, when they see how he's willing to be imprisoned for the gospel, Paul's boldness is spreading to the other believers. So this is just another example of how God is using Paul's imprisonment to work something good. First, yesterday in the previous two verses, we saw the good that came out of it, that the gospel was going to places it otherwise would not have gone to. It was going to the palace officials. It was going to the guards. It was going to the prisoners. It was going to the kings, the governors. But now here we see that not only is the gospel being spread to non-believers through Paul's imprisonment, but also other believers are being encouraged and strengthened because of what Paul is going through. You see, God is using Paul's imprisonment in so many different ways to bring about a positive result, that other believers become confident when they see the confidence in Paul. Proverbs 28:1, it's a very well-known verse. It says that the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are bold as a lion. And you see, as righteous men, as righteous women, there should be a boldness that rises up inside of us. There should be a boldness when we're walking in righteousness because we know that God is on our side. When we're walking in righteousness, it doesn't matter what happens around us. It doesn't matter what someone does to us. None of these things can change the fact that God is with us. If you are righteous, God is on your side. Or more accurately, when you're righteous, you are on God's side. And when you're on God's side, you cannot be defeated. You cannot be stopped. Anything that happens to you will always work for something positive. Romans 8:31, if God is for us, who can be against us? And the answer is no one. And when we're walking in righteousness, God is for us. And you notice something here, that as Paul realizes, I can be bold as a lion, that boldness spreads to others. Boldness is contagious. Courage is contagious. And that's applicable in every part of life, and all the more when it comes to the gospel. I remember something that happened many years ago when I was in my senior year of high school as a basketball player. I was on a team. We were a pretty good team that year, and we were about to play a tournament. We ended every one of our years with this 4-team tournament. It was called the Novi Invitational Tournament. But the night before the tournament, I sprained my ankle really badly. You know, I came down on it. I sprained it. The doctor told me not to even walk on it for a week. But we had the tournament starting that same night that the doctor told me that, and I was determined to play. I'd been in the tournament the previous 3 years. We'd won it the previous 3 years, and I wanted to make it 4 for 4. So I went to the game intending to play that night, and I met my team. And you know what happened when we got to the tournament that night? We saw our first round opponent in the tournament, and this opponent had a giant. This opponent had a guy who was about 6 feet 8 inches tall. Now, I was from a small high school. It was a tournament for small high schools, and I was our biggest player at only 6'3". This team had a 6'8" guy, and remember, I can hardly even walk because of my injury. And my team, we saw this giant guy. We all began to quake in fear. We all began to cower. We all thought, "Oh, this is terrible. This was our chance to win the tournament again." And now look, Cameron has a really sprained ankle, and they have a giant. Even if Cameron was healthy, he's not 6'8". He can't do what this guy probably can do. And we all started to get discouraged. We were all down. We all hung our heads and said, "This is bad. What's going to happen?" But I'll never forget, just as we were about to begin the game, we got into our pregame huddle, and one of my teammates, one of the players on our team, a three-point shooter actually, his name was Randy. He looked at us all and said, "Guys, don't worry about how tall he is. We can do this. We're going to win this game. We can take them on. We can do it." And you know, when Randy said that, something about the tone in his voice, it gave courage to the whole team. We all started nodding our heads and saying, you know what? We can do this. You know what? That guy may be tall, but we can outplay him. We can outquick them. We can beat this team. And that one player's words, that confidence of that one player, that one young man, it spread across the whole team. And we all decided we're not going to be scared of this 6'8" giant. We're not going to cower because they have this big guy. We can win this game. We can outplay them. We can do it. And my team went out there with that attitude. And do you know what we discovered when we started the game? That giant, that 6'8" giant, he couldn't play. He wasn't good at basketball. He may have been a nice guy. I don't know him, but he dropped the ball. He didn't have good hands. He couldn't score. He was a giant, but he wasn't very good at basketball. And we discovered that as we played with courage and confidence, we were able to do well in that game. And we did end up winning that game. And then the next day, we won the next game, and we won the tournament 4 years in a row. I was very happy about that. But it all started with the confidence of one young man. It all started with the boldness of one young man, that when all the rest of us were scared, he said, we can do it. We can win. We can conquer. And his boldness spread to the rest of the team. His boldness spread, and it changed the whole atmosphere of our team. And we succeeded, and we won the tournament. I think you know why I'm giving this story, because it's very much the same in our spiritual lives. If you can be a man of boldness, if you can be a woman of boldness, your courage will not only help you, your courage will spread to those around you. Your courage will spread to those in your church. Your courage will spread to those in your family. If you're a man or a woman who's scared, who's timid, that also can spread, and your lack of courage and your fear can spread. But if you will say, no, I'm going to keep my eyes on God, I'm going to be bold, I'm going to share the gospel, I'm going to spread the good news, I'm going to believe that God is going to bring growth to our church, growth to our ministry, I'm going to believe God to bring change to my city, change to my nation, the gospel's going to go forward, I believe He can do it, and I believe He can use me to bring that change. I believe He can use me to spread His word. I believe He can use me to change the atmosphere. God will use you. God will use you not only to give yourself courage, but to give courage and boldness to those all around you. It worked for the Apostle Paul. It worked for my basketball team 23 years ago. It can work for you as well. Courage and boldness is contagious. God bless you. Thank you for listening to the 8-Minute Devotion.
Thank you for listening to the 8-Minute Devotion. We trust you've been encouraged and blessed today. Please subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or by visiting the8minutedevotion.podbean.com. For questions or comments, please email us at the8minutedevotion@gmail.com or visit our Facebook page. We would love to hear from you.